You fucking Edomites will be living in shitholes soon. Giving all praises to Yahweh Shem Yasharahla, Bashem Kakadash, double honor to the apostles and elders, great millstone, peace, citation, hope for all that. Haba Yasharahla, Malak Dawadad, House King David, and confusion of faces that the list heathen nations, but then it goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the royal Joseph, Selan, Shalom. And that's pretty much what I'm going to name the title of the video. And, might have to blot out the, the F word because you know how Esau is when you make videos and you use certain, root speech languages and shit like that. They decide to terminate your video, fuck with your channel and all that other shit. So, as you see right here, Trump referred to Haiti as African nations as shitholes countries. So basically, you will see Jake, from the western side of Africa, they mostly come from the west coast. And then you also see from Haiti, you got like obviously the Levites that's mostly dwell in that land. And this is just straight up fucking ignorance because you have actually Haitians that got money there too, like, you know what I mean? There's different sides of Haiti, and you got the poor side and then you got the rich side, and then you got the side where people are kind of like in the middle, and what America does is that they present like the bad side all the time when it's coming to referring to countries like Africa, the Caribbeans, and especially Haiti. And you will see that and over time, like, you will see on the news that they would like to show, like, the bad parts of Haiti and shit like that. Like the media, they like to always show the good sides of America and Europe, and they always show the bad sides of Haiti and the other countries that are like African or Caribbean. And so right here, he was meeting with a bipartisan group of senators. That's what Donald Trump was doing at the White House. And a Democratic aide briefed on Thursday meeting told NBC News. And Trump's comments were first reported by the Washington Post, which said nations referred to by Trump also included El Salvador. The UN Human Rights Office said the comments, if confirmed, were shocking and shameful and racist, while Haiti's foreign minister summoned the U.S. charge d'affaires Roman Diallo for clarification. You see, and the thing about Donald Trump, he's one racist motherfucker. He over here calling countries a shithole, and yet this country, America, is the one that fucking exploits resources from all these other countries, taking away and stealing their valuable resources. This is what America does, and they like to take over their money supply, then take over their valuable resources like gold, silver, and give them their bullshit ass paper money, and then they also want to take over the water, other valuable resources as well. This is the so-called white man for you. And then you got these fucking Edomites, basically, they just like, that's what they do. And they don't show you that on the news. And then they got the fucking nerves to always show you the bad parts of, Haiti and stuff, and they don't want to explain how come it got this bad, and they don't want to tell you the real truth behind it. And then you can see like many articles about what Donald Trump was doing. Like many articles mentioning what he said. They even said the world was pretty much infuriated by Trump's shithole country's remark. And little does he understand, the scriptures mention in Isaiah 24 that how And I'm bringing it out soon that how your ass is gonna end up in a fucking shithole yourself, along with the rest of you other Edomites. This is your judgment. Because when you go in the country, you will see Jake pretty much suffering in these other countries as well. Because our people are scattered. So you know how they have us at the bottom of the pyramid. Even in this country, America. They always try to have that glass ceiling when Jake is just working a 9 to 5, trying to make it, trying to do the right thing by working hard. You will have fucking Edomites that will basically, have like them under a glass ceiling. They will pretty much have Jake to be on the bottom. It will be very hard for Jake, especially being a so-called black man, to basically being promoted. They'll make it hard for them. But yet they'll make it so fucking easy for, obviously, an Edomite to, even if he has a dirty record, for him to be promoted. And over here it says life on board slave ships. Slave ships spent several months traveling to different parts of the coast behind the Congo. The captives were often in poor health from the physical and mental abuse they had suffered. They were taken on board ship naked and examined from head to toe by the captain or surgeon. Conditions on board ship during the metal passage were appalling. The men were packed together below it, were secured by leg irons. The space was so cramped they were forced to crouch or lie down. Women and children were kept in separate quarters, sometimes on deck, allowing them to limited freedom of movement, but this also exposed them to violence and sexual abuse from the crew. And they also lacked sanitation, and they also suffocated as well, because there was a constant threat of disease. They also had epidemics of fever, dysentery, and the flux, smallpox, and it happened frequently. And basically, because how they were suffering from all this, because they decided to pack all of them on slave ships like sardines. That's what the slave owners decided to do. And and basically that's how they oppressed us and shit like that. And Esau don't fucking realize he got worse coming to him. This is just a light thing that he did to us compared to what he's gonna go through. So here it tells you about the living conditions of slaves, and pretty much their diet. Their diet was pretty much inadequate or barely adequate to meet the demands of their heavy workload. And they lived in crude quarters that left them vulnerable to bad weather and disease. So pretty much they would be vulnerable to getting catching a sickness. They will be more likely to catch that because the living conditions were kind of dirty that they lived in. It says slaves who worked as domestics sometimes fared better, getting the cast-off clothing of their masters, having easier access to food storage. And the heat and humidity of the South created health problems for everyone living there. However, the health of the plantation slaves was far worse than that of the whites. Unsanitary conditions, inadequate nutrition, and unrelenting hard labor made slaves highly susceptible to diseases. As I mentioned, illnesses were generally not treated adequately, and slaves were often forced to work even when sick. The rice plantations were the most deadly. Black people had to stand in water for hours at a time in swelter and sun. Malaria was rampant. Child mortality was extremely high on these plantations, generally around 66%. On one rice plantation, it was high as 90%. And this is so much for the country, America, that a lot of people love so much, This is how much his so-called white man loves you, and this is how he treats Jake, basically, immigrants, this is the shit they do, You don't got the Europeans like going, the Edomites going to shit like this, like how we do. And then again, he does it to, he does oppress his people and even other heathens, to a certain extent. But he does it to us at a larger extent compared to what he do to the heathens. You see? And this is another thing that got our people really living in. They got us living in fucking projects and all this other shit, And when you mention projects, first thing you think about is so-called blacks, and Hispanics and Native Americans living in that shit. You feel me? But the projects that they make for that Esau makes for his own people, of course it's not gonna be as bad as the ones, as the projects that are made for our people. So even from slavery, even all to this day, Esau, what he does is that he makes sure that our people are still being oppressed. And they act like they'll act as though they care about us. This is why when you go into Isaiah 24 verse 21, and this is going to be the prophecy, obviously, when the Lord comes back, and when Amos 9:1 to verse 3, when that prophecy is fulfilled, this is what's going to happen. Verse 21, and it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall punish the hosts of the high ones that are on the high, and the kings of the earth upon the earth. They shall be gathered together as the prisoners are gathered in the pit, and shall be shut up in the prison. And after many days shall they be visited. Exactly. So y'all gonna really live in a shithole. Y'all gonna know what it's like to live in a fucking shithole. All you Edomites, and even you fucking heathens as well. You're gonna have, don't worry, you're gonna have company. Yep. This is gonna be a resting place for the Sabbath. And y'all gonna be working 24/6. Yep. That's 144 hours a week. That's how long y'all gonna be working. Because on a plantation, y'all had us working for 6 days a week, and y'all had us all also pretty much getting our asses beaten, and then here it is where over time in history, when they put us in slavery, they put us on the slave ships, and then pretty much Esau, what he did was, with the nation of our people, he had something that you call there's something that you call mulattoes and mestizos. So basically mulattoes will be like one of the parents will be like a so-called black person, and one of the other parents will be a so-called white person. So basically, let's say a white father, which is like an Edomite, and one of the parents, like from the the mother, she could be from the southern kingdom, which is from either Judah, Benjamin, or Levi. That child would be a mulatto, right? So-called black child. A so-called black mother, or it could be a black father, and they have like a white parent, basically, and they brought forth a child, and then what you have is a mestizo. Basically, they will be one of the Northern Kingdom Israelites, which is from the Latino or Hispanic tribe, or they could be from the tribe of Gad or Reuben, like those Native American tribes. And basically, like one of the parents of that, and then the other parent is a so-called white person, which is an Edomite. And when they bear forth a child, right? then that child is coming out as like a mestizo. When you look up the encomienda system, that's the system that they had when the Spaniards, the Creoles, I think those were like those were like the slave owners in Spain that came to Latin American countries and started to oppress like the Nether Kingdom, you know, basically like they oppressed like mostly the Nether Kingdom during that time. And what happened was, during our oppression with Esau, he fell in love with our woman. And what they did was they popped many of our women, and they brought forth fucking tears, right? So basically, obviously, when they have their child with with an Israelite woman, they're so stupid they don't realize that they basically brought their grandparent back from the reincarnation, and they just throw their own kid in fucking slavery. So a lot of you retarded, you stupid, dumb motherfuckers, y'all put your own children in slavery. Fucking retards. I'm pretty sure they haven't really peeped that because they don't understand reincarnation. Because the scripture said that, you come from like 3 to 4 generations, like you come back 3 into 4 generations to your to your father's seed line. And this is something that a lot of people don't understand, that reincarnation is a thing and you are your father's seed. Some people will think that when it's coming to nationality, people will think that it's where you're born and it's where both of your parents are, like you're mixed, like you wasn't born mixed. Like, you can't, I mean, don't get me wrong, you could have genetics of your mother, but it mostly comes from your father. Your father determines your seed. He determines your nationality. So yeah. And what Esau did was, when it's coming to those tear children, he put them in the same conditions as us, He pretty much abused his own children. When you look at the Jeffersons, like Sally Hemings and Thomas Jefferson, when you look at accounting the history with the Hemings family and and Thomas Jefferson side of the family, they weren't able to like be buried with each other, because basically Sally Hemings was like considered as a mulatto. Her grandmother was an actual Israelite, which was a slave, and basically she her grandfather obviously was an Edomite, and then her mother was Betty Hemings, and her father was John Wales. And then, they brought forth Sally Hemings. And then Thomas Jefferson met up with her. And then, pretty much popped her and had a certain amount of children for her. And they basically put their family in slavery. And they put us pretty much in the same conditions as, as they put their offsprings in. But one thing about like the offsprings, like when they have slaves, right? Like they call them children of plantation, basically. Sometimes they will have them as usually they will have them as the overseer, because one thing about Esau, when he had his people as slaves, which he was oblivious of, because they felt like, because they had a darker melanin, that they was our people. No, that was your people. You put them in slavery. Just because you have melanin don't necessarily make you an Israelite. Because you have Israelites out there that come in all different skin colors. And I already mentioned that so many times in my other videos. So basically, you just throw your own children in slavery. And, because you Edomites are also against each other during the time of the, I'll say, there was a time during the Reconstruction when you had Edomite farmers, basically, that had to migrate to America, well, they had to migrate to like the city because um pretty much during that time of the Industrial Revolution, I meant Salaki, if I said Reconstruction by accident. During the Industrial Revolution, technology was so it was starting to basically make some jobs in the farming in the farming industry. Certain jobs started to like be limited to all those farmers that were working, so they didn't need that much farmers. So most of them had to go back to the cities and stuff. They had to migrate to, and they were living in shithole conditions. And many of those farmers, many of them were Edomites, and they actually had to go through that oppression of basically being in the city. They were living in shitholes. They had to put their children to work and all that shit. The whole family was basically like poor as shit, and they oppressed their own people back then. And then when you look at the time period during the Nazis with Hitler, how they oppressed the Amalekites and put them in the ghettos, and you know and blamed them for the hyperinflation in Germany, and they pretty much oppressed them. So basically, you put your own people in oppression, and you had your own people living in shitholes in certain points of time in history. you know. And to talk back on that part with the Hemmings family, I'm gonna do another video about this, about how Thomas Jefferson, like pretty much like more updates about like their history and stuff. I'm gonna touch on that. And another thing that they did was like, the Hemmings family, since they were like pretty much like slaves, since they were like the sons of the slave master, they obviously get treated better than the other ones, because they come out usually lighter, right? Well, I mean, for this case, when it's coming to what you call it, not Thomas Jefferson, George Washington's son, West Ford, you look at that motherfucker, he's black as tar. That man is black as tar. He's darker than me. He'll make me look like I'm light skinned. That's how dark he was. So he was a melanated Edomite, and you could see like his facial features and tell that he's an Edomite. And then what you call it? These are things in history where they don't show you, like, they don't show you these things in school, right? Like the slave master's son. So you have to look it up. Especially like with certain presidents and shit like that. And then basically, if they have like 1% black in their family, or even 0.5%, 0.1% if possible, yeah, they will pretty much put that children in slavery, even if that child could be pretty much like as pale as a motherfucker. If they're known for having one of their parents in their lineage, in this seed line, whether it be the mother or the father, they'll as a slave, they'll pretty much put that child to slavery. That's how stupid Esau is. So, and he obliviously put his own children in slavery and had his children suffering in the same conditions as us. So, and the funny thing is, many of y'all actually did serve slavery, and y'all gonna serve slavery again for 1,000 years. So I'll say the ones that were lucky were like the Rothschilds and Rockefellers, those other Edomites that basically didn't, that didn't rape our woman, that basically married within their own kind. They're the ones that's, smart compared to the rest of these other Edomites. Because basically you bringing back your own grandparent into slavery when you pretty much, did what y'all did. Because anytime you have a kid, you bringing back your ancestors. So that's pretty much the reason why it's so like, not only that it's worse to be an Edomite for the future judgment that you have to go through, but shit, they're oppressing their own people too. So when the Most High like mentioned about Egyptian going against Egyptian, He pretty much put that curse upon Esau as they put us in slavery, you know? And he's showing that, to us even to this point in time, because now you see what the Lord is doing to them. The Lord is putting them through the oppression. They're catching the hell. And they're trying to be like, we're all the same people. And they, being like Black Lives Matter. And for the most part, they want to also try to include that and say all lives matter and shit like that. Nah. Now all of a sudden, they caring about us because they catching the hell too. you know. So Esau got his own people living in shitholes. Some of them are homeless. And it's like, hey man, you a fucking two-time loser. If you a poor Edomite, if you're not even upper middle class, you missing out on your kingdom basically. Because that should be a starter pack for you to be upper middle class. And, basically working your way to being rich. That should be a starter pack for you Edomites. And many of y'all are missing out on that. I've seen some of them basically pack like sardines on a bus sometimes. I see some of them packed like that on the airplanes. Y'all should be having private jets and shit like that. Y'all should be having like first class business economy type of flights. You Edomites supposed to be having it good. The system is basically supposed to be under your feet serving you. And yet you have some jakes out there that's actually living a better lavish life than you. So yeah. And you not only oppressing the tier children, basically like the children that, of the cotton field, basically like the slave owners' children. Because you do have some tiers even to this day that look exactly like us or look close to us, but they pretty much are not originally an Israelite. You have them serving slavery, and then you have the Edomites that actually look like fucking that actually have the original Edomite look, that are actually serving as bums, being hobos and serving as slaves to the system, working hard or poor jobs. Working as custodians in a school, working yeah, I've seen it too. I've seen it. And I've seen some Edomites homeless. That sucks, man. That's bad for y'all. Y'all supposed to be making money. Y'all supposed to be top investors, top, drop shippers, all that shit. Y'all supposed to be, this system is supposed to be under y'all feet. Y'all supposed to be having y'all businesses up there. Y'all supposed to have a business to y'all name. Because once you Edomites, anyhow you step into our kingdom, it's just 24/6 work. It's unlimited work for y'all. And the rest then is going to be a shithole. And the Lord said in Wisdom of Solomon chapter 12, we're going to have to fucking punish you Edomites 1,000 times more than what y'all did to us. Well, that's for the heathens in general, but for you Edomites, y'all supposed to get double than that, scriptures say. So y'all supposed to have double more than what the heathen's going to go through for oppressing us. So y'all going to be the worst treated in the kingdom. Yeah, and y'all going to live in the worst conditions. We're going to have you on slave ships, way worse than the slave ships you had us in. Then you're going to be so far away from life. You're going to be in an underground cave, in an underground pit of the earth. It's pretty much going to be like this. Your living condition is going to be very dark and creepy down there. These pictures are just showing an example. And it's not going to be spacious either. So y'all going to be packed up in there like sardines. Yep. That's how your living quarters going to be. You're going to be so far away from life. So we're going to definitely have you. The only time, and the only time y'all going to pretty much be working around life is when you Edomites are basically going to be in the on a cotton field, on a plantation. Yep. And even life is going to pretty much be against you. You're going to have the spirits torching your asses, and the Israelites starting from, Yahweh, then the elect, then the 2/3, and you best believe the 2/3 are going to probably be kicking your asses way more than we are, because they're going to be so pissed off that you Edomites actually made them to be in that condition, and made them to be the 2/3, like you were the reason why the 2/3 were the way they were. And then you're gonna have what you call it, the heathens fucking you asses up. Then you're gonna have animals. You're gonna have even bugs, plants. So all form of life is just gonna be against you. Yeah. And when you're in your underground pits, you're gonna basically be there with a whole bunch of dirty bugs, man-sized bugs, rats. Boy, you're gonna have it bad. We're gonna just put you on slave ships for fun, and just keep you in there, rotting in there, throwing up on each other, defecating on each other. That's what y'all gonna do. Y'all gonna know what it's like to be in a shithole times 2,000. You Edomites used to be living in caves, you know, pretty much in Mount Seir. And Mount Seir is pretty much before y'all migrated to Caucasus Mountains, So yeah, we're used to living in that type of areas. So this time y'all gonna live in it underground. And you're gonna barely have any fresh air to breathe. You're gonna always breathe filthy air. Same way you put chemtrails in the air that all humans be breathing now. Guess what? You're gonna put so much toxic things in the air where y'all breathing in underground. Yep. And you're never ever gonna destroy life ever again. Because life is gonna make sure we're gonna have all life forms destroying you. And the way the Most High is gonna set it up, every single life form is gonna be torturing you. Even the air itself is gonna turn against you. So you Edomites are gonna be in the kingdom looking all like y'all mutated, y'all lost limbs, probably lost certain organs, and y'all gonna be forced to work. And if y'all can't, we're just gonna beat the shit out of you. Even if you can't. Even if you're in a condition where you're supposed to be on a wheelchair, we're still gonna fuck you up. We don't give a fuck. Because it's only right that you get that type of judgment to y'all for putting us in slavery. Hope I made the lesson edifying. Let's give all glory, praises, honor to Adonai, Yahweh, Bashem, Shamach, Yahushua, Bashem, Rakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, great millstone, peace, citation, to hopeful elect. Yahweh, Bashem, Ashai, Babakashat, Shalak, Rayam, Adawam Yam, Wa, Goayam, Wa, Abababa, Shalawam. Death to you fucking Edomites.